I can hear that now. It's all good.
All right, gentlemen. Well, this is SANDCAST, Christmas edition, beach volleyball with Tri-Born and Travis Mawerder. And Billy Allen has given everyone the Christmas gift they've all been waiting for like 2 years now. You just came out with the sequel to your fictional series. What's happening, Billy?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'd say all 20 people were really excited and waiting for it. So happy to deliver finally.
How long were you working on this one?
Probably a year and a half of solid writing, because we did write Coach Your Brains Out, the book, kind of in between Good Blood and this one. So that took probably 6 months. So yeah, about a year and a half, and it definitely was. The process was sped up by some quarantine and some lack of volleyball. Yeah. So I had a lot more time to write, and it was fun to at least put some energy into a different project instead of sitting around my house bored.
And you had some good isolated time in Idaho.
Yeah.
Not exactly the beach volleyball capital of the world. I'm sure that was probably a good, like, writing haven. Not yet. When did you make the move up there?
Yeah, so we left right after the last AVP, so beginning of September, and we're debating whether to move or not, whether to keep our place. Because basically we were just paying rent in Redondo and not able to do anything there, and not other than not having volleyball to play in. Like I wasn't able to coach, or even like the volleyball vacations we usually do. Like just a lot of stuff was shut down, so it just made more financial sense to move up here where Janelle could work a little bit for her dad. And so we can at least be making some money, and yeah, it gave me a lot of time to write once season was over.
Yeah. How's an Idaho winter? Well, I guess you haven't started it yet, really, I guess.
I don't know. From the day I got here, it felt cold. No, yeah, it's definitely milder. There was snow on the ground a couple times, but it's melted away by now. But it's still like, I mean, I stay inside. I don't go out in that. They had a couple, maybe like the first month it was nice. You go outside. There's a guy named Chris Costi who has a court in Spokane. So I played there a few times in, the beanies and the tights and the sand socks.
Yeah. We're gonna have to rename you Billy Baumgren.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. I was like, how does that guy do it? Yeah. That's impressive. Tim could be and Brian could be so good after just playing in the cold on their own court by themselves, peppering or whatever they do.
Yeah.
Sounds miserable.
When we were down in I played a tournament in Clearwater, and Tim played with Bruno, and Piotr was playing too. And I was asking Tim when the last time he played, and Piotr was like, "Oh, he's peppered with Brody once. He's fine. He's peaking."
Oh my God.
Yeah. I feel like the only reason I'm any good at volleyball is just because I played so much growing up and playing. I just had so many more hours on a lot of guys, and so Tim is kind of the opposite. So it's just so impressive that he's able to be where he is with maybe not ideal history of volleyball.
Yeah,
and he's like, you would think he'd be like, oh, maybe he like sees the game a certain way and is able to like find advantages, but when you watch him play, it's like he looks like one of those instinctual guys where he's just like making shit up and like making plays like, like a Taylor would or something like that. I don't know how it does. Minnesota, the Viking blood.
Did they win this weekend? The Vikes?
Oh, what? Oh, I can't hear you. We're breaking up. Sensitive subject. Although I did beat Phil Dahlhauser in our fantasy league, so I'm now in the finals.
Oh, that's big. Who you got in the finals?
I thought you might ask, so I thought I'd bring that up. Nice little segue. I believe I'm playing the real Phil, a guy he named his team the real Phil because his name's also Phil. Phil Noyes. He works at USA Volleyball.
Okay.
So we're competing for about $1,000.
Phil Noyes, Coach of the Year. He coached the World Championship teams in Doha.
The real Phil. the OG real Phil.
How much input was he giving you guys? Was he picking the lineups and
I wasn't there.
Benching people?
Yeah, I don't know what the influence was. I know he did call a crucial timeout. And that was the biggest move he made. It was funny though. I went in to sign up for something at USA, and I came in and saw Phil, and I was like, Coach of the Year, and Sean was like, Phil, how many times do you think you're going to hear that? Like, how long is this going to last for?
Just keep it going.
Was Doha the last event that you played? Or no, you played Champions Cup, but I guess international.
Yeah. So we just played just Doha, and then we were on the verge of, like, we have tickets to Australia and Mexico, and we were debating. That was the time where you kind of had a choice, and so we were debating whether to do it or not. And then that all fell through, and then just the 3 AVPs. So short season. Felt weird.
Yeah, weird one.
Those damn Mexicans, right?
Oh yeah, Doha.
Dude.
Yeah, those guys were on. We this has happened to me a few times in my career, but those guys beat us, and I was like so disappointed. And like, how could we lose to these guys?
Yeah.
And they went on to beat a bunch of other guys, and then we looked at the film. And we're like, oh, they played really well. It was just
exactly.
Like, it went from this like embarrassing because, like, I don't know, you underestimate your opponent or whatever. Not at the time, but just like after the fact, and then like
totally
a little easier to swallow once you see them beating all the other guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't believe they beat Russia, because we played them at a Norseca in Bonaire, and the blocker like basically had like a heat stroke. Like they smashed his first set, and then the next two he like couldn't. He kept trying to call a medical, and so they ended up losing because he just like couldn't do it. But I watched them beat Russia, and I was like, all right, that's a resume win.
Yeah. Well, for our listeners, this is Mexico's 2 team who just blew onto the map in Doha by beating pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
But we beat them first set. We were up, and I blew it basically. I got blocked a few times, whatever. We were up like, I want to say like 19-16 or something. Blew the first set. We're like, crap. All right, we got to beat these Mexican kids that we're supposed to beat. We beat them 21-7 the next set. So we're like, okay, this is more like it. Then third set gets away from us, and they beat us. And then we're like, wow, we just blew a giant finish for Olympic points and everything to a Mexico 2 team we didn't even know about. And then the next round, they go and beat the world champions. Like, oh, okay, that feels a little better. And then they go and beat Bruno and Evandro. Like, okay, that feels a little better. And then they went to 3 in the finals. So.
And they played Fifi and Brill in the finals?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that did you play them in Doha too, Billy? Because I remember you played them in Mexico, didn't you? In the fall?
Yeah, we played both. So we lost to them in playoffs in Doha. We lost to them in playoffs in Mexico too. Mexico was rough too, because we were in the 3rd game and the defender had hurt himself, or he was cramping or something with his leg. And so we're like, okay. And it kind of like, I mean, you know, when somebody's injured, you're not supposed to switch your game plan that much. That guy, the right side blocker, was hitting on 2 like 1,000.
That was one of the like single most impressive performances I've seen from a player.
In hindsight, like, we probably served too easy, not just giving it to, but targeting the defender. But I mean, that was another just like horrible, like afterwards, it just felt so bad. We like had these guys, a good shot to move on. The guy's injured. We're in the 3rd game and we're siding out fine. We just couldn't score any points. And like afterwards, just, you know, once you kind of, the dust settles and you're done crying yourself to sleep, you look at the video and you're like, wow, they made a lot of really good plays. It wasn't like we played that bad. So yeah, I don't know, just getting a little more perspective on some of those losses. The World Tour is tough. Anybody can beat anybody. It's
Yeah. Well, he was like off the charts good. The blocker was in that match. And then, I mean, he showed it wasn't really a fluke by playing like that in Doha too. So it'll be interesting to see them come up. Because Virgin and Ontiveros have been there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I feel like Virgin Juan is physically. I feel like he always has something going on, or I don't know how often they get to train. I heard they have problems with their federation in terms of supporting them, like after Rio. But I mean, the 2 team could easily be the 1 team now.
Yeah,
after this,
for sure.
Or are they now? I don't know. I guess they might be the 1 team.
Yeah, maybe. But what? I mean, obviously, so you've kind of relocated temporarily. Maybe, I don't know. What's the plan for you moving forward? Because you're in Idaho right now, but I don't know if it's like kind of a try situation where you just kind of popped to Hawaii, took advantage of a good housing market, and you're going to come back when it's time to train again. have you and Janelle kind of talked about what the plan for you guys moving forward is, if you're going to come back here in the summer, play some volley?
Yeah, we've talked about it without any kind of answers. I'm definitely going to come back and play volleyball, whether it's we move as a family back and this is just kind of an off-season thing to save some money, or whether it's more permanent is kind of up in the air. I think it'll depend on how many tournaments. It'll depend on if she's enjoying her job. It'll depend on a lot of things. We were planning on buying out here and kind of setting some roots, but the housing market's kind of crazy up here too. And so we thought anywhere out of California, you just, buy houses, like you snatch them up. But apparently that's not the case. There are a bunch of other dirty Californians up here buying in cash and inflating the market. So that's keeping us a lot more temporary. So we're flexible, and hopefully there's a lot of volleyball next year. And yeah, we figure out what to do.
Yeah, I feel like it's impossible for anyone to make plans right now, just because like no one has any idea what the schedule is going to look like. So I mean, you're just kind of indefinitely there. I think, did Trevor go back to Hawaii too?
So yeah, Trevor's here, Riley and Maddie are here, Spencer's here, everyone's back right now. But I booked my flight for the 7th, so I'll be back January 7th, living down ocean side of PCH this time, but
nice.
I didn't buy the place, of course. we're just Airbnb-ing for 2 months, but I'm stoked. I finally made it towards the beach.
West of PCH, I'm like 5 feet from that.
Yeah.
Right on the highway.
Right. Oh yeah, you just missed out. But we'll be back in first week of January.
Okay.
Ready to rumble for the schedule that's not a schedule.
Yeah.
Just training for nothing.
Do you think that you're still going to stick playing international stuff too, or are you going to start phasing into more like AVP, like kind of a Casey Patterson type, where he's just like all local with the occasional event overseas when it works out?
Yeah, I'm planning on still playing international. I think no matter what, that's the right goal for me to have right now, just because, at least train and prepare for that standard. And if, end up not playing as many, you're just more ready for AVP.
Yeah.
I feel like if I just told myself I was only going to play in a couple local tournaments, I would slack off a little too much. But as long as we have points and I have a good partner and I'm able to compete and represent USA, I'm going to do it as long as I can.
Yeah. And I heard Stafford said he's probably moving down to San Diego too.
Yeah. That's the hard thing about living here. Like, we haven't even had a discussion, Stafford and I, but like, I'm sure me moving up here throws a wrench in things and makes me a less desirable training partner. But he's got a lot of stuff going on with his family and his life too. My parents live in Oceanside, so maybe that could work out if I go and stay down there and we train in San Diego.
San Diego could be the new South Bay.
There's a pretty good training group down there, right? Or there used to be. I don't know.
Better than Idaho.
Better than Idaho.
Yeah, I mean, there used to be for sure. I know, like Matt Olson's down there. He doesn't really play much anymore, and there's some Jensens and people like that.
Was down there.
I don't think Derek and Paul live there anymore.
Derek's he's coaching up at Cal.
Yeah, but I mean, there's good players.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Plus, a lot of people drive up.
I think Lotman and David Lee are down there, and and Reed, he goes down there a fair amount, I think. Or in Huntington isn't too far of a drive. So San Diego could be the spot.
Yeah, just listen to the SANDCAST podcast on your commute to Huntington.
Exactly.
Yeah. How are you and Mayor doing with your podcast?
Good. Mayor's killing it. We have a podcast called Coach Your Brains Out. It's centers on coaching, mostly volleyball. But he's been fired up on a couple of topics on motor learning, and so we've been getting a lot of like scientists and people like that on, researchers. So it's been pretty heady stuff the last couple of months if you've been following along. But yeah, he keeps bringing guests, so we keep doing it. It's harder for me to be as motivated because I don't coach right now, or don't really coach as much anymore, and he's definitely more into that. But he drags me in, and I sit there and ask some questions, and it's a lot of fun. And we actually have a patron call on Tuesday tomorrow, so we'll kind of get to chat with some patrons and talk about stuff. And yeah, We're still doing it. Got some books in the work.
you guys have been running that for a long time.
Yeah, maybe 6 years.
Phew, we got a long way to go.
Dang.
That's awesome. And
Heck
then
yeah.
you got some more books in the works?
Yeah, so we're John and I have 2 books kind of planned. One I'm going to kind of more assist him with writing, and then one he's going to kind of assist me with writing. One's we wrote a book called Coach Your Brains Out, and it's a coaching book. It's a lot of it's a little more theoretical, so it's less of like a drill book or prescriptive. It's kind of like, here's some more philosophies on coaching that we've learned through doing the podcast. And this one will be a little more hands-on, like guide for coach, to, kind of like a drill book, but through the lens of like this thing called constraints-led approach. And then the one I'm working on is kind of a cross between Good Blood and Coach Your Brains Out. So it's
Coach Your Blood Out.
Yeah, Coach Your Blood Out.
What does that mean?
It's a lot of coaching lessons, but it's told through more of a fictional parable story. So
okay,
hopefully, sprinkle in some sugar with the medicine.
Does your Good Blood series have like a good volleyball readership?
That's pretty much the only readership.
Wow, dude, I was looking on Goodreads the other day and I saw that you were getting some reviews. It's like, I've never heard of this Allen guy. Like, excited to see. I don't know if it's just volleyball people making it up or if you're actually getting like native reviews on Goodreads, but yeah, responses.
I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think it's some of both. So I think sometimes it's like a volleyball person jokingly like saying, "Oh, this author guy," and then but when I do get a unique reader, I can sometimes I can tell, and it's really cool because I mean it's great that my family and friends read it, but I feel like for a lot of people, like my book was like the one book they read that year because they're not like they're not readers. So when I have like a real fantasy fan or whatever read it and enjoy it, that's even more precious because it's like, oh, I'm actually competing with a lot of other writers that hold their interests, where it's like, my brother, it's like the one book he read this decade. So
that's cool.
He's gonna like it.
It's fun to get that response too. I know it's cool to get kind of the people outside of your sort of social circle. But it is fun because my brother doesn't read books either. And he's like, dude, I read your book in one day, which Volleyball for Milkshakes, you can read in like an hour. But for my brother, that was an accomplishment.
Yeah. Have you guys had a good response from that one?
Yeah. People enjoyed it. I think some people enjoyed it more than they said that I liked it more than I thought I would. Like a lot of people would just buy it. I mean, as you know, just because like they know the guys who wrote it. They're like, I actually really liked it. Like Nicolette Martin, who did the illustration, she's fired up on it.
She did a really good job. It's funny. My buddy up in NorCal, his friend is a elementary school teacher, and he told her about it, and she had her whole class read it, and they all had to do reviews and stuff. I can't believe I haven't sent.
No way.
He sent me pictures, and they all had to like write about it and like what they learned. And so yeah, there we go. We made.
When I heard you guys were writing that, I was like, oh, cool. I'll be able to read The Catch, like a children's book. And then I looked at it. I'm like, oh, you guys wrote this isn't like a kid's book.
Well,
it started. That was the plan. Yeah.
Travis got carried away writing or what?
That's exactly what happened.
I was thinking like a picture book. I'm like, that's right up my alley.
Then even showed me like an example of like, what's that book that you had for Naya with the really long name?
Tiki Tiki Tembo?
Yes, Tiki Tiki Tembo. And you're like, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. I was like, I don't know if I can write that. And then I started and then I got stuck in the Moscow airport for like 24 hours and I got carried away.
And I'm not gonna stop him. I mean, once he gets his good juices going, I'm like, let's go.
Now you gotta follow the story you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My daughter's got about like 6 years till she can read that one.
Yeah. How did you come up with Good Blood? Because obviously me and Tri, like Volleyball for Milkshakes is right up our alley. It was literally kind of based on Tri's childhood.
It's my reading level. That's why we started there.
But Good Blood is well off the volleyball map.
Yeah, I know. If I was smart, I would have wrote a volleyball book because once we wrote Coach Your Brains Out, that's like, sold way more copies than Good Blood because that's where my audience, my fan base or whatever you want to call it is, my social network. But I've always done some sort of writing. Growing up, I wanted to write for comic books and like draw and do that stuff. And then in college, I did a lot of movie stuff. Actually, my senior year, I made an action film, like a full length
No
thing.
We
might need to see that.
Yeah, it's called Viper Endgame.
Wow.
Starring me as a hero Viper, and it had pretty much the whole men's volleyball team, women's soccer team, and women's basketball team in it.
That's amazing.
I'll send you a preview. YouTube has a preview on it.
Oh yes.
We kill off Ty Trambly in the first 10 minutes because he kept forgetting his lines. Anyways, and then after college, I got into doing a lot of volleyball videos. We did this website called Kinda Good, and we did a lot of Danny kind of videos and stuff like that. And then I started moving into books because it's not easier, but it's just all up to you. You don't have to rely on friends to show up and act, and you don't have to like sell it to anybody, and you can just write a book and somebody can read it. So I've always done some sort of creative thing, and I majored in creative writing, short stories. And then Good Blood specifically came about because I read a book called Name of the Wind, which is a fantasy book that I really enjoyed. And I didn't grow up, being a fantasy nerd or into that stuff that much. So I'm a little behind when it came to, I guess just how much I know about that genre. So Good Blood doesn't have that many fantasy elements. It's like a very fantasy-less fantasy book. There's like one thing about people that have special blood. That's about it. Other than that, it's pretty much just a medieval book. But anyways, I read that, and so I was inspired, and I'm very influenced by everything I watch or read or listen to. So because I just read that last, I started writing it, and went from there.
Dude,
Go ahead, Trevor.
I was gonna say maybe we make a volleyball movie. Since we have you, the director. Gabby has all these actor friends. I have connections to all of Hollywood actors.
So can I pitch you
Not all Hollywood actors, but
can I pitch you my one idea?
Oh yes.
Yeah, but do we want to make it public right now?
It's fine. It's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen. So I don't know, Travis. Did you guys ever watch those Danny Kinda videos?
Yes.
Okay, so we're working on doing a Danny Kinda the series, like TV show. It could be a movie, whatever. Right. And the concept was. So the last video, Danny kind of goes to California to play beach volleyball. Doesn't work out well. He doesn't like jump on and start, winning tournaments. So he's working as a waiter in Hermosa Beach, and he's down on his luck, and he's reevaluating his life. When all of a sudden, Danny kind of from the future pops through a time jump, and gives him these magic knee pads that he can dive through time with. And he goes back in time to learn like all the skills. So he goes to like whatever Eric Sato to learn how to jump serve. He goes to Randy Stokos to learn how to do this. He goes to, and so you kind of like have him jump through time, learning the skills from like the legends.
That's awesome.
I'm sure it doesn't work out with him for him at the end. But that was the movie I started to write.
When did you start to write that?
Probably 2008.
Okay, so it's just you're just letting it build. Slow roast.
Let it marinate.
Yeah.
Where do you come up with all of your creative ideas? Like, what's your creative process? I feel like everyone's like super different about it. I if I go on a walk by myself with like no phone, I like can't. My brain's just so full of random ideas that I have trouble parsing them down.
Yeah, well, I mean, for sure, heavily influenced on stuff. Like I said, if I read a book, maybe it's not like it's a copy thing, but it's like it just gets your mind rolling in that kind of vein. And
Right.
So like, oh, like this could be a good twist on this. And then basically my problem is really hard to, like I spent, like I said, 1.5 years on Dark Blood and, probably 2 years on Good Blood. And it's really hard to sit with one story that long. I'm definitely not a perfectionist that keeps tinkering with it. One, because I've, never done anything perfect, but also like I really get excited about ideas. So while I'm working on Dark Blood, I'm thinking of like 10 other stories I'd rather write. Yeah. And it's a chore to like just day in and day out go and put the, log in time working on the same story, and especially on multiple drafts. So I just, I compile a bunch of stuff, ideas I have, and a lot of it's combining ideas. So like, you have one little premise, and then something else, maybe it's in a different setting, and you're like, oh, those that could actually work together. And that's kind of how a lot of times you find something unique or original by kind of combining multiple ideas. So usually when I'm done, like with Dark Blood now, I had like 5 projects I'm excited to work on. But while the one pot's cooking, the other ones are kind of simmering, and the ideas are coming and stuff.
Yeah, it's tough to have the discipline to not pursue all the other ideas while you're working on like the one big one. That happens to me all the time, where I'll have like one and then I'll get distracted, like super ADD, do all these things. Then I get back to the one. I'm like, damn it. Why didn't I keep on this one?
Yeah, I know people have different stages that they enjoy, and some people really like the rewriting process. I like outlining and thinking of the ideas. The rest of it is kind of work. But I was done with Dark Blood in maybe March and ready to with a good solid draft and oh, I'm done. Let's show the world. And then I had to hold back and take it through a couple more drafts. I think for me, it helped showing like my wife or having at least somebody read it. So it wasn't just like you're locked away with the story by yourself forever. But yeah, it is a lot of work sitting there and going through it and cleaning it up. What was your guys' process collaboratively for milkshakes? Did like one guy write it and then you kind of send it back and forth, or how'd you do that?
Hold on, Try, you might be muted, bud.
Oh, sorry. There was people cutting trees, so I muted. Yeah, we had the idea, and then we were kind of like going back and forth brainstorming, and then obviously Travis is going to do most of the writing, like all of it. And then he just was like in Moscow stuck. He's like, I just started and let it flow. And I was like, great. And so we had it like a draft, and then I kind of like threw in my ideas and little concepts that I thought we'd want to include. And then I also had to like kind of like authenticate it, since it wasn't supposed to be me as the main character. He just wrote it like in his head so he could like write the story. He made it as me as the main character. And I was like, well, if it's going to be me, you're going to have to change this.
I don't say cowabunga, Travis.
That's not my favorite milkshake flavor. Actually, mint chip. That's a true story. I did have to switch it to mint chip. But yeah, I mean, Travis obviously is the big time writer.
Yeah, it was kind of most of the, obviously it was set in Hawaii. So almost all of the ideas and stories themselves came from Try, and Gabby helped a lot too. Because I didn't know, like when he was talking about how you guys would paddle out for as far as you could or run up Diamond Head and all that stuff. Like I didn't do any of that. I've been to Hawaii twice. So most of the ideas and stuff came from Try, and then I would try to write it out and then send it to Try, and he would kind of make the tweaks to fix it and make it a little bit more real. No cowabungas. He edited out all those.
I love our surf session though.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting in the back. Yeah.
And then that one, I was actually able to use my own experience surfing, because I was like stoked that I finally got up on one wave. And I watched Cole Fears push Andy Benish into a wave, which is how I got you pushing me into one.
Yeah. And it's funny because Nicolette's picture is like exactly what I was picturing.
Yeah.
You nailed that. It's funny because like now my family and like whatever random people, they go along with the characters, and like my mom is like, isn't my mom Delaney? What's my mom's name?
Gosh, I forget. It wasn't Delaney. Maybe Jocelyn?
Jocelyn. Yeah, my mom's Jocelyn. So like her siblings, my aunts and uncles, call her Jocelyn now.
That's so funny. I love that.
So funny. Just random names that were in your head at the moment.
Yeah.
And we just stuck with it.
Yeah. Just take it. But I mean, you've written books solo and with a partner too, Billy. How different was it working with John for a book? Because I know sometimes like creative projects can be tough when you have someone else giving input and insight that isn't exactly what you imagine. Like me and Try were always pretty close, and then Nicolette was like perfect for it. But I can imagine that maybe if like you and John disagreed on something creative, you could be like, well, I'm the writer here.
Yeah, that's totally how John
totally
Billy
are.
Yeah, I mean, it helps that we align so much with I guess it's kind of our thought process on that coaching and volleyball. But it was really nice to have somebody to work, like you said, to collaborate with, because one, you don't have to do all the work. At the same time, you have to split the earnings. So I guess there's good and bad. But yeah, it can be a lonely process, and so being able to bounce ideas back and forth. We had a Google folder, and we'd be sending Google Docs back and forth and editing and making notes. And so I really enjoyed the process, and I think that's why we're looking to do it again. It's also, I mean, it's a different kind of book, but it was a way faster process having two guys tackling it at once.
Yeah, I feel like it's easier when you can take stuff from, because you used a lot of the lessons and stuff you got from the podcast. I feel like it's always easier to take stuff from that other people also gave you and just pretty much transcribe it and kind of tweak it a little bit.
Yeah, we structured it like, so I came up with the outline and the structure of like this chapter. We talk about, these concepts, and here's how we break it down and organize it. And then from there, we basically split it up, and John took the harder chapters and I took the other ones. But I felt like, and then so you kind of go over the other person's work. So he would talk about feedback and he'd write that chapter. Then I'd go back and, do a pass at it. Yeah, it was tough because I feel like, try same thing. Like we've been playing volleyball a long time, and like, so I have a chapter talking about competition. But it's weird. Like I feel it's really hard being prescriptive and giving advice, and because you're in it and you're playing it a lot, but coaching and teaching it is a whole different thing. And so it was good. It was a good process to kind of evaluate, I guess, kind of my own thoughts on the coaching. And we, so it's a mix of stuff we learned with our own experiences, which I think makes the book unique to us because there's so many lessons that we've learned, and we insert stories throughout. So it's not just
No.
I didn't want you to miss any of these golden nuggets,
There we go. We're back.
I'm back. Sorry, guys.
All good.
So yeah, John. John. So it's weird because John and I, grew up on the AVP playing against each other, and we were friends pretty soon into our careers. We both lived up north. I was in Venice and he was in Santa Monica. We ended up working out at the same gym up in where was that? It wasn't Thousand Oaks. It was somewhere
Beach?
up north. No, yeah, it was Muscle
Beach.
Muscle Beach. But kind of up in the valley, we were working out at the same place. So we ended up coaching at Santa Monica College together. I was his assistant, and so we've always been good friends. And then as his career was winding down, I kind of thought, and he was getting more into more. He'd always been coaching, but getting more and more into coaching. I thought there was there's not a big ocean of coaches, beach coaches out there. And so I always thought John would be great, and I would snatch him up as soon as he was available. And we had a talk in an off season when I was getting back with Stafford, and just said like this, my ideal team would be, playing with Stafford again and having you coach us. And so we all met and tried to figure out if that would work out, and entice Stafford a little bit and stole him away for whoever he was playing with at the time. Went from there. And it's been great having him. And it's weird because I'm, a year older than him, and we're peers, but so we didn't know how that would work as far as the dynamic of him coaching me. But it, within the first 10 minutes of a practice, it came pretty natural.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really imagine a better situation for you guys, bringing in a guy like that who's like has all the experience in the world as a player, but throughout his playing career, he was like learning the art of coaching. And then just as he transitioned fully into coaching, you guys get him. I know Trevor really enjoyed playing with him, learning that little float serve that he uses now.
Yeah, I think John's a different case. I mean, other than just having a really good head for the sport and just studying it so much, it wasn't just like a player that ended his career and then got into coaching. Like you said, he'd been coaching college for a long time, and so he was definitely ahead of the game as far as a coach. And then it's been great having also because he's a contemporary. He knows the players and opponents because not just he's studied film, but he's actually played this guy.
Yeah, and he knows what it's like to be on the court, right? That's one thing I love with Jose is like he knows when to say stuff, when to just bring energy, and when to actually like bring the tactical stuff. And like Johnny, I feel like his mind's very tactical, or like he's well thought out, but he probably knows when to say stuff and when not to say stuff. Whereas like I think if a player just goes straight into coaching, they're just gonna like spit everything out at every other time when you're not trying to like hear that. And I don't know. I feel like Johnny's perfect for that.
Yeah, I think you definitely, especially as maybe a younger coach, and I've had it, being a little more insecure, you want to like, prove your worth and show that you're valuable. And so you want to like
exactly.
be saying a lot of stuff. John's on the other end where he almost says too little for us sometimes. But I think I don't think it's a matter of the art of knowing when to say stuff as much as he's just really open to feedback, and he wants us to tell him if it's too much, if it's too little. And he sends us, his own like surveys on how he did so he can get better. Which is hard for me. He's so super open to feedback because he wants to get better. And it's not like an I know everything, I'm a coach. It's like, oh, how can I be better for you? How can I do this? And so it's always changing. And I have a hard time filling out those surveys because one, I'm pretty easygoing, and I'm like, you did fine. I don't know. Thanks for being there. I appreciate it. Which is not specific, which is what he's looking for, because it's not going to help him get better. Stafford's a little better at telling him what he wants.
For sure. That's so interesting. I've never heard of a coach. I mean, like, talk about being open to learning, especially as someone that you'd think most coaches, like, they're fighting that ego where it's like, I'm the one who's supposed to know everything. And Johnny's over here sending surveys to you guys.
He awesome. Does it with his LMU team too, which is, even, you'd think even more impressive because they're maybe 20-year-old girls, and like, what can they teach me about coaching? But it's like, you coach through the lens of your players. And so if the players aren't interpreting something or aren't understanding stuff, it's really important to know that your words aren't wasted and how you can be better.
That's awesome. Yeah. Can you imagine if I sent like a survey to Trevor? What that would say?
Yeah, I know you guys do Peter sessions and you guys do a lot of team sessions, right? Are you guys pretty, are you guys pretty open with that communication?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do a lot more of the talking.
Mm-hmm.
I
played with Trevor.
Trevor just, yeah, exactly.
Like, it was the first guy so Trevor, like, we were also at an age difference, right? He was like the only player I've played with that I was like significantly older than, and it was really strange like traveling with him. I got along great. Trevor's a great guy.
Yeah.
It was also when he was first starting, so like we had a time where my license was. We tried to book a rental car, and I just realized my license had expired, and Trevor was under 25, and so it was like this big hassle, like doing everything. But anyways, it was weird being like in a hotel room with somebody that was just like on his phone watching music videos.
Dude, he's
and so I was like, people watch those still? Like,
you have to accept the quietness from all the crowds. Yeah. Like they're just so content, and like they could just like, you could go pick them up to go to practice and you don't even get a good morning, just like sits in the car and just like, I'm like, what's up, dude? What's up? Like, all right, I'll just get in the car now and we'll just have a quiet drive all the way to the beach now. It's so funny.
But that's one thing we've been working on a lot the last couple of years was having Peter and USA Volleyball as our kind of sports site guy is just the communication with partners as a team. And that's something I've never been very good at either. Not as quiet as Trevor, but as far as just being honest and being vulnerable. And so I think it's been great with John facilitates that pretty well. And Stafford's pretty, he's a great communicator. So it's something I've been developing as a skill set too, is being able to say what I'm thinking and feeling and not just bottling it up inside.
I feel like we're thinking of it even more so at home with the wives, right? That's just where my head went for that one.
Or my son.
Oh yeah, I haven't really gotten there yet. My girl's only one word, so
patience is like this.
Patience
Anger is like this.
Exactly. Oh yeah, I love doing the work with Peter Haberl. It's pretty awesome being on the national team and like having access to that. Like are you guys doing team meetings yet? Getting back into that?
Well, I think in January we'll start doing that. Yeah. I was doing during quarantine when it first started. Like I was like, oh, how can I get better volleyball when the beaches are locked down and there's no tournaments? Other than doing like squats in my garage. I was doing a lot of Peter sessions, and so I was doing it like 4 or 5 days a week with him, and it was awesome. I've been slacking off. I haven't been doing it since the AVP because I feel like it's a little harder without tournaments around the corner. But yeah, I got a lot out of that, and just reframed a lot of stuff that I thought I needed or had to feel earlier in my career.
Yeah.
You mentioned that like kind of your writing is you'll read a type of writing or say a book you like, and when you kind of write, you go in that direction. Do you find that same thing with beach volleyball, and that if you watch a certain, say, defender, that you start to tend to try to kind of emulate that type of play?
Yeah, especially early on. I think towards the end of I wouldn't say end of my career because I have like 20 more years left, but now I'm a little more like, okay, this is who I am and what I'm capable of, where, like, it's hard to watch Phil Dalhouser and start emulating that at this point.
Right.
but younger, I for sure. And I think I would watch, like, I played left side at the beginning of my career. And so I watched a lot of Stein. I watched a lot of, even Anthony Medell, like, smaller defenders. And then once I moved to the right side, I was like, oh, now I can finally watch Todd Rogers and emulate that a lot. I think, especially Todd. I watched him a lot and modeled my game. And I shoot a lot more than most guys, which is probably a reference of copying him. I should have been watching
that high line of yours.
Yeah, it just saves the shoulder.
Yeah.
I think you always get inspired and watch guys and get ideas. I wouldn't say it's as extreme as the writing, because I feel like in writing you can kind of do whatever you want. Where on the court, I'm kind of limited by being 6'2", 100 and whatever pounds. And,
Have you been doing any film stuff? Because like we said, Idaho is not yet the training center for beach volleyball. But have you been like trying to watch film or stay in kind of that beach volleyball space at all? Or have you used this time to take your first break since you were probably like 6 years old down in San Diego with your dad?
Yeah, it's been mostly a break. I think I've been watching stuff more as just motivation to work out. Like if it's a little easier when I watch a little volleyball to kind of like, oh yeah, like that still exists in my life, and let's go do some squats or whatever. But yeah, it's weird. I grew up playing. It was like our family sport. My parents met playing volleyball, kind of like Janelle and I did. And I was never a multi-sport athlete. It was pretty much volleyball. And so, there's dangers to that, but luckily I never really got injured and I never really burned out. And so this has been my first huge, like really big break, and I've been enjoying it. And so for me, being away from it, I think if I was by the beach, it'd be a little different, but being here, it feels like I've pivoted, and because I'm not around it, I haven't been like yearning for it as much as I would be if I was like sitting in Hermosa. But, I think now the break's been long enough where I'm kind of excited to get back, especially with, the new year coming and season getting closer. So I feel like definitely a little more motivated now. As far as watching video, I haven't been as far as like critiquing and scouting my own play or anything like that. It's more just general watch volleyball to get excited again.
Yeah.
Have you seen the tentative schedule? We need to emphasize tentative because FIVB got mad that it was released everywhere.
Do not pay no attention to this schedule behind the curtain.
Exactly.
I saw that, and so I still you have a set date you're flying back. I don't know when I'm going to go back.
Right.
It'd be great if we also currently we're living with Janelle's parents who have some higher risk things as far as like the COVID stuff. So we've been having been a little more careful. And so like we visited my family for Thanksgiving, and then we ended up having to go to a cabin for a couple of weeks just in case, just to quarantine. So there's some logistical stuff that got tougher too, because it's like, if I go down for a training block to train, am I going to have to, quarantine on both ends? It just kind of adds to the difficulty of that. So hopefully things look better in 2021, and it's a little easier to travel and train and kind of do that.
For sure.
Well, it can't get any more difficult to travel and train, I don't think so.
Right.
There you go. Yeah.
So if you found a way to stay in shape and be productive this year, I think you'll figure it out in 2021 too.
Yeah. And I'm excited because John, I don't know if like I said, we've been having some different people on our podcast talking about a little a different, it's called ecological dynamics. It's a different way to coach. And John is like, he goes like full into something. So he learns something new and he's like all about it. Where I think another coach or somebody might, maybe I'll try 5% of that in my practice to see if it's worth. He's just like, so I'm kind of excited to see how that will influence our practices. And so that makes me a little more excited to get out there, because, anytime you do something new in volleyball, like you switch sides, you have a new partner, there's a freshness to it. And I think just the idea of, training a little different and trying this, new philosophy is exciting. It makes volleyball seem like it'll be a little fresh. So that like talking to him has got me fired up to go out and start practicing again. So hopefully,
wait, you gotta at least give us a little sample of what is this thing?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Not that you want to give away the secret, but
yeah, I think basically the idea is an older, more traditional model of teaching is, here's what you should do. Let's say these are the 5 keys you need to pass. Right. Let's go through it. I'll tell you them first, and then we'll like see if you're doing it right. And this is more like constraints led, where you craft a drill or a game in order to have the drill itself teach you how to do this thing. And so it's less of like in your ear giving you feedback on technique. It's more outcome based, and the outcome, let's say if you want to teach somebody to pass higher, instead of saying you need to swing your arms like this, make sure you're doing this, you just have the target higher, and just the drill creates it.
Right.
And one, it gets you to learn it better because you're not trying to do a specific technique. Whatever the game teaches the game. But 2, it is also, I feel like you've worked with a lot of coaches, right?
Yeah.
And you've tried different techniques because they all have different opinions. And it's like, I feel a lot of my career has been really focused on, having this perfect technique. And it's like one that works if the technique's right. And, that changes throughout time. But then 2, you're trying to do this technique, which sometimes is a little more divorced from the outcome, where like you can do this thing perfectly and still not be effective or winning or doing this. And so it's a little more outcome based. And the crossover will be, once you're in a tournament, you're not thinking about, what your foot's doing when you're starting your approach. Now you're thinking more of like, how can I solve this problem and how can I win this game? Because that's what I've been doing in practice. Yeah. And so it's a lot more problem solving and having the environment or the practice or the drills teach you stuff than it is like a coach just in your ear giving you like the 6 secrets to passing or whatever.
I feel like that is a way more effective way to teach the muscle memory, right? Because that's ultimately what you're trying to get to. You want to teach your brain to do it, or like to understand what it is, but then you have to teach your body what it feels like. Like I feel like that's what I'm always trying to get to, is like the feeling. Actually, I need a little bit more strategy, like more thinking in my brain going. But I mean, that's how kids learn, right? Is when you're just playing for fun, like they're learning. Some kids have like this flawless technique they've never been coached in their life because they were just trying to beat their friend, and then they figured out that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it's based on. It's not like you're like, hey, these are the 7 steps to riding a bike. You need to first get your leg over you just kind of, once you do it, you find how to do it right. And also there's a degree of difference in athlete to athlete, in your body type and physiologically. So maybe how Tri does something isn't the perfect thing for me to do. And so it just accounts a little bit more for the variety, of players. If you coach a college team with 12 girls, there might not be this perfect ideal form for every single person. As long as you're, there's some basic biomechanic things that are more, whatever, like serving overhand is going to be more effective than serving underhand, whatever. But within that, like there's still a lot of range. And so for me, trying to look exactly like Tri-born might not be as important as me just, trying to put the ball away.
Right. Totally. It's like me and Trevor blocking. It's like, we're running the same drills, but it looks so different when we're doing it, because his load is like this big, and
can't bend his knees,
touching the sand, right? And he's so good at reading and like putting his hands in the right spot, so he kind of goes up way more neutral than me, whereas I'm like picking spots to go attack.
Right, and so it's
we're doing the same drills though.
Is our time spent better teaching Trevor to bend his knees more, or just to like, this is what he's got, and let's have him work on reading and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think as an athlete, it's tough because one, we want to just be told the answer, and I like to think I'm coachable. And so if you're like, hey, do this, I'll just put that into my game and to be able to do it. But in reality, like I've been told, go slow to fast my whole career. I've been told, stay behind the ball. We still struggle with these things.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
It's not quite as easy as just a coach telling you the answer. And I think that's where implementing it in these games and have that teach you rather than just somebody tell you a sentence is a little more transferable.
I think that's great for sure.
It's funny that John, because he's been coaching for a long time, that he's just like, he sees a new strategy. He's like, all right, pivot. We're going all in.
I know. It makes me want, there's so many different strategies. Like obviously I have Jose for most of the time, but then I've been talking to other people and like trying to learn a bunch of different ways. I meet with Evan Silverstein out here, and he's pretty analytical, but then I was talking with Mike Dodd too a little bit, and like everyone's strategies and coaching style is so different. It's impossible to like pick one way that's right.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to kind of like let go and like embrace what one person's doing, and then hope that like 1% sticks with you, and then go embrace what another person's doing.
I would say the good thing about John is he one, he's willing to learn, so he'll change stuff up if it's not working or right. But two, I think he bases he tries to base everything he does on science and what motor learning teaches. So it's less of like, hey, this is some experiment I thought up. It's more like, oh, this is what maybe the research on skill acquisition says on this, and so how can I incorporate that into volleyball? And so it's less of just like his own fancy as it is whatever, maybe more research driven. But at the same time, that's also his personality, is he's quick to go full board into whatever it is, whether it's being a vegan or whether it's eating meat, or whether if there's some new study, he's let's shift gears and this must be the right way. And I think that's cool to be able to not be hamstrung by so much tradition, and just be able to be flexible and keep learning.
Especially in times like these where like the whole world's changing and you have no control. Mayor's probably just like, oh, this is great, I just found this new way of living and it's fully embracing it, and this is the best time ever.
And it's like if you're past something is proven wrong, it's like it's not in this embarrassing thing where I need to keep doing it just to prove I was right. It's like no, I'm learning, so now I'm better because I'm switching to this. And I think it's a very admirable trait to not have a foolish consistency.
Love it.
Where can if our listeners, I can't imagine that we don't have many listeners who don't also listen to your podcast, but where can they find your podcast? And just as importantly, or if not more importantly, when can they get number 2 of the Good Blood series? Or where can they get it?
So podcast is Coach Your Brains Out. We have it'd be on iTunes and Spotify, any place you can get that. Actually, we had so many episodes that we have some old episodes people are always asking me about. And they're like, hey, where can I get that one where you guys talked with this Todd Rogers on this? And I was like, oh man, I don't remember that. And so I just started doing a Coach Your Brains Out archives. So hopefully it's like a separate podcast that'll have like older episodes.
Nice.
So you're the first ones to hear about that, because I just started uploading them. So anyways, if you just search Coach Your Brains Out, you should be able to find that. We are affiliated with Gold Medal Squared, which is a volleyball coaching organization, and so they on their website they host a lot of our episodes. Nice. As far as the book, it's on Amazon. You search, Dark Blood is the new one, and search Billy Allen or something. You'll see all my books on there. I have a website called BillyCatchAllen.com. That's KETCH, and that'll have more information. It's available now. Hope you read it. Hope you enjoy it. It's a little dark, but as the title suggests, but there's some humor in there and a lot of action. So,
And listeners, if you've read it, even if you haven't, drop a review. Helps them out a lot, and review their podcast as well. But dude, good to see you. Good to hear from you. I'm glad to see that Idaho's treating you well.
Yeah, good to see you guys, and I'll be back. I'll see you back in California.
For sure. Love it.
All right, man. We'll give Janelle and Catch our best, and have a great Christmas too.
All right, you guys too.
Merry Christmas.
Shoots,
later,
fellas.
Billy. Thanks. Shoots.